It's that time of year again when I'm a negative little Nelly and I talk about my least favorite books of the year. Now, this reading year was sort of a beautiful moment for me. I read 123 books. It's December 27th. I could get a couple more in, but let's be honest with ourselves. I have this week off and I have a lot of wine, so I doubt I'll do much reading. But anyway, 123 books is the most books I've ever read in 1 year. That is a testament to the sheer amount of boredom that I was dealing with and the sheer amount of times where I went, if I don't have an audiobook in my ears right now, I might start thinking, and then who knows what will happen. For the most part, I read a lot of very good books. My favorites list is quite long, but there were some duds, and because it's the time of reflection and being a little bit negative about our choices over the past year so that we don't repeat our mistakes, we're going to examine these books that I said nope to. I literally have a Storygraph shelf that says nope. So, yeah. First book on here is unfortunately Written in the Stars. I read this book technically for a video that I never finished because I read this book in the video and I was like, I don't want to keep reading for a minute. Written in the Stars is a sapphic romance about two pretty boring women who fall in love. They fake date and then they fall in love, and they're both pretty boring. I just thought this book was very dry. It was so very dry. It felt hollow, it felt two-dimensional, the romance just wasn't working. I didn't see the chemistry, I didn't feel the chemistry, and it was very, very disappointing. I read some great sapphic romances this year, but this one was by far my least favorite. It just didn't do it. It didn't hit. It didn't go hard enough. Big, giant disappointment and bummer for me. Just so boring. I digress. I need more wine. Well, that was dramatic. The Witch Haven. Okay, The Witch Haven. Sometimes YA is a masterpiece of fiction writing. Sometimes young adult novels truly blow me away by how nuanced and funny and interesting and smart and clever and genre-defying and defining they are. This book was not that, and that's okay. This is a historical, magical book about a school for girls who have witch powers and they want to get into dark magic, I guess. It's a really fun concept. I was very excited about this concept. I read this book as an ARC, so I was obviously excited enough about the concept to request it on NetGalley, but I thought that the main character was so frustrating. She did not live outside of the plot. I could not imagine her outside of the plot because she was the plot, and I hated it. She had no personality outside of the plot, and the love triangle was very reminiscent of what I grew up with in YA, which means it was terrible, and both guys were wasn't for me. Didn't like it. This is probably the worst book I read this year, and that is The Sparrow Sisters. I read this for a vlog where I was trying to read 7 books in 7 days, so I was really just like, what is there? You know what I mean? What is there to read? I want to mix it up genre-wise. This is a general fiction novel in the just clearest of terms, if that makes sense. Like, it's just nothing really. It's supposed to be a retelling of like the Salem witch trials because there's some witchy women in it. It's trying to be Alice Hoffman. It's trying to be practical magic, and it is failing. It is incredibly ableist. It's very offensive and incredibly boring. So it really just boom, 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 hits all 3 nails right on the head. We've built a table with one of the legs just like falling because it's a badly built table. A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I read this for a video where I read TikTok books. Every booktuber has made that video because guess what? It sells. It sells. It's a good concept. And I did it too. Maybe I'll do it again. Let me know if I should make that video again because that was torture when I was making it. This is terrible. I first read it. I was like, well, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Nope. Upon recollection, it was awful. It's so boring. It's so slow. How was I supposed to know it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling? What? The masks? They just have masks glued to their face? I am excited about the TV show because I do want to see how they implement that because it is what? Just terrible main character. I just hated it. I hated it and I get it. I get why people like it, but I don't get how I could ever like it because I didn't. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. Bridgerton number 4 by Julia Quinn. I have read the first 4 books in the Bridgerton series with my friend Emily. I've liked 2 of them. I really liked the 3rd one a lot, and I liked the first one. This one though, hated it. How do you treat Penelope Featherington like human trash, Colin Bridgerton? How? Why? He's abusive to her, both emotionally and sometimes physically, and I found it disgusting and terrible, and this book had potential. They're both writers, so they had like a shared common interest, but his abusive nature ruined the book, and I thought it was awful. And I can put up with a lot in Regency era and historical romance because it is a different time, literally a very different time, but this was too much. It wasn't just like overly protective, kind of assholey, which is most of the time in Regency era, especially older Regency era, but this one took the cake with all of that. I have one more book, and now the last book. It's a book I read very recently. Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. I love The Hating Game. I haven't seen the movie yet. I haven't watched it yet, but I love the book. I've read it a couple times. It's so good. It's a book that I think a lot of people really enjoy because it's so much fun. Then I read 99% Mine. Hated it. I read this book. I didn't hate it as much as 99% Mine, but it was, it was close. Second First Impressions is about a young woman, sort of a virginal little princess. I don't know how to describe her. She feels like a fake person. She works at a retirement community, and she meets this guy who his dad like owns the property, and he's a bad boy. He's a loose cannon. He is irresponsible, and they strike up a friendship that turns into a romance. I hated this book for a lot of reasons. I really don't like that trope of like, I'm a little sweet little granny girl. I'm 25 years old, but I'm a little granny. And he's like, I'm a bad boy. I have tattoos. I'm gonna I hate that. I hate that dynamic so much. And then also, I just hated the fact that he was so possessive of her in a really gross way. And the romance felt the power imbalance just felt striking. I also just did not like anyone in this book. I hated the side characters. I hated the way that the only person of color in this book is just sort of like a cartoon character. I hated it. I thought this book was truly terrible, and it's disappointing because I thought it could have been something. I thought it could be kind of sweet and fun, and I liked the concept of like them working in an old person's home. Like, I thought that could have been interesting, but it wasn't. It was bad, and it sucks because I'm afraid that Sally Thorne she's gonna have written The Hating Game, and that's the only good book she's ever gonna have written. Anyway, those are my least favorite books of the year. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them.